CV Summit. It's one of the largest blockchain events in Switzerland and it's taking place in Zug or Crypto Valley. And following the crypto winter, insiders are now gearing up for what they call Crypto Spring. Joining me here now is Mathias Ruch, founder and CEO of blockchain investment firm CVVC, who helped put together this event. Quick question, why did the conference actually rebrand itself from Blockchain Summit to CV Summit?
So that was actually just part of a bigger rebranding we did for the whole group. We launched CVVC last September, and then we changed all ecosystem brands in this logic. So Blockchain Summit became CV Summit, and we introduced the CV competition. CV Maps was just part of this bigger branding change we did.
If we look at the spectrum of events that we've got, we're gearing up for Consensus in New York, and we've also had the Crypto Finance Conference in St. Maurice. With insiders having access to so many conferences, how would you place CV Summit on that scale?
I mean, everything is way smaller in Switzerland, right? So this is also a tiny event compared to the big ones in the world. But I think that's what makes it special, right? On the other hand, what we do is we actually curate everything ourselves, right? So whoever is on stage, every speaker, every partner, every startup that comes here, we have a personal relationship with. I think that's what makes it special. You have more influence on coming up with with an agenda that is really of interest to the people coming here, and I think that what makes it a bit special compared to the other ones.
Let's talk about the theme of this year's event, because following the crypto winter, everyone kind of has still question marks looming over their head of what to expect for Crypto Spring. So paint us your forecast.
Okay, so I mean, spring is here when you look around, right? So, and I also think Crypto Spring, which means kind of the next level of blockchain development, is right in front of our doors, right? So how come I speak about Crypto Spring? I think what we see as a VC, the projects coming to Switzerland, they are different compared to the ones that were here in the past 2 years, meaning that they are pre-funded, they have VC funding a lot of time, they have at least angel funding already, they're more mature, they have proper business plans, they know what they want to do, they have a bit more than a 3-page white paper, and these are signs that we see. On the other hand, there's a lot of international corporates that come to Crypto Valley currently. They just want to learn about the community, about the ecosystem, what's going on here, and when we talk to them, what we see is this is really the entry point for them, right? So recently we had a very big international asset manager here, and it was very interesting because we paired them with one of the startups trying to build the infrastructure layer currently when it comes to blockchain infrastructure. And it was a very interesting discussion because for both of them, it was very clear that blockchain technology will have a great impact on their business models. And it was only about where do we allocate what resources at what time.
What you're speaking of is actually a maturing of the space, and that goes hand in hand with the idea that you're trying to promote this year, which is #BUIDL, if we can pronounce it like that, a deliberate misspelling of build. So walk us through what that actually means.
All right, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with HODL. Which
the
was
predecessor
the predecessor,
of BUIDL.
yes, the type of a crypto holder, right? So he misspelled and he wrote HODL, and we used that, and we are saying it's time to BUIDL now, right? So it's time to build the infrastructure. It's time to come up with the projects that can really affect businesses, and that's what we see. What is starting right now.
What do you say to critics who still feel like, even today, that there are still limited applications of blockchain? Let me point to you to one critic, Nurio Rubini, who says that even until now, it's no better than an Excel spreadsheet.
Well, sometimes actually it isn't, right? So one of the questions we usually ask the startups is that why do you need a blockchain, right? So and you need to come up with a good answer. But there is, I mean, this is just if you look at the advantages that come with blockchain in certain use cases, and of course you have a lot of use cases in the financial industry that just just simply makes sense, right? I can give you another example. I was talking to a big law firm entering the space now, and they are anticipating the new regulation, the consultation that is currently going on for a blockchain law in Switzerland, and they're anticipating that the whole industry will switch to these new instruments when it comes, for example, to issuing something on the blockchain. The whole industry will transform over time just because it's more effective and it's less expensive. It will take some time, but why would you go back to an old system that is more expensive and much more inefficient?
At this year's event, we're also going to be seeing Swiss President Uli Maurer here. Doesn't it make it much easier when you do have that backing and support? And how are those conversations taking place? What are they looking like right now?
No, absolutely. I mean, we have tremendous support from both the federal government, also from the cantonal governments. We've launched the blockchain task force by the end of 2017, which is today the Blockchain Federation. We had two federal councillors, current President Uli Maurer and former federal councillor Johann Schneider-Ammann, being the patrons of these organizations. It helps a lot, right? It opens all the doors, and what is most important is these people, and also the government, the people actually writing the laws, they know what they're speaking about. So it's very remarkable at what level you can interact with these people.
You've openly praised Switzerland for having a more liberal attitudes towards blockchain and distributed ledger technologies. But if you were to sit at a round table with these government leaders, what kind of input would you give to say there's something still missing?
The most important thing that we in Switzerland are missing is, to think big. Right, so this is an opportunity that we have based on the current setup, the framework, that actually lets you think big, right? But that's probably nothing I have to tell a foreign government. They do think big. What I think is really, we were lucky with what we had here. We had a great regulatory environment. We had an open-minded regulator that introduced guidelines very early to create legal certainty. The sooner you do that, the more companies will come to you.
Rank Switzerland for me compared to other crypto-friendly countries like we see, such as Malta, Liechtenstein. Where does that stand?
It's hard to do a ranking, right? Because I think there's different reasons why someone would go to some of these jurisdictions. When it comes to Switzerland, organizations, projects, startups that come here, they seek a stable environment, they seek legal certainty, and they seek a community, an existing community that can, help them drive innovation, and that's maybe why you choose certain jurisdictions. I don't think that Switzerland is actually the place or the jurisdiction for every project, right? I mean, we have a really high cost of living here. If you want to be here, if you want to have a company here with employees, it does cost money, right? And so you need to be able to afford that. But then what you get is an existing ecosystem of startups, of corporates, of universities, of open-minded governance can help you drive your idea, your project, and bring it to the next level.
So put yourself in the shoes of someone who has just decided to launch a blockchain startup. Which valley is it going to be, Crypto Valley or Silicon Valley?
It's a good question. Despite the fact that, based on, let's say, the rather limited or restrictive regulation in the US, still, most of the projects and ideas come out of the US, right? You don't forget that. Of course, we have a lot of innovation based out of Europe and of course of Asia too. But there is a very stable and long-standing ecosystem in Silicon Valley that just knows how to do stuff, right? And it depends what you want to do. If you seek pioneers, if you seek projects, like-minded people that are actually at a very small place, and everything is within walking distance here in Zug, I think Zug is ideal because you get to talk to everybody. If you want to talk to the government, I think a phone call and you know, a couple of hours later you can talk to them.
I also think that some of the more up and coming blockchain hubs in Switzerland would like their say in this to be included in this picture.
Sure. You're speaking of
Geneva,
yes,
for
yes.
example.
No, absolutely. I mean, you know, Crypto Valley is first of all, there's no valley here, right? So it's not a location, in my opinion. It's a mindset, right? And it is all Switzerland, and it has spread all over Switzerland. If we look at the report we're doing, we're screening the commercial register, syncing it with the internet and
the
LinkedIn.
Top 50
yes, the
blockchain
top 50 report, right? But we also gather all the information about every blockchain company in Switzerland, right? So we are roughly around 750, 760 companies right now. The past 5 to 6 months, also in Ticino and Geneva, it grew from roughly 30 to 45 for each of these regions, right? So they're still small, but they're growing, and a lot of great projects come out of that region in Switzerland.
There's still some way to close the gap, but what advice would you give to them so they can remain competitive and not always be on the back foot of Zug?
Well, I mean, it's of course this originated here and you know, spread out to Zurich. Now we have a huge cluster here. As soon as you get universities and you know, talent going there, it all starts with talent and great projects, right? Money will follow anyways, right? If you have the great talent and the great projects, you have the same legal framework all over Switzerland when it comes to the regulatory environment, right? Then you have cantonal ways of doing specific, taking specific measures when it comes to settling down companies. I'm talking about taxes, for example, right? But that's not the main reason these companies come here. I think if you can specialize in some industry, for example, or a part of blockchain technology, you know, there's still way to go. I think if you manage to get a specific community to a specific region, and which makes sense, I think there is really no limit to how you could develop in Switzerland.
Recently, we also saw a new report out come from PwC on ICOs and STOs, security token offerings. And the question I pose to you is that how does the movement towards STOs suggest a maturing of the blockchain industry?
It does so to a great extent because if you compare ICOs to STOs and you know, almost all over the world you have these different categories of tokens and depending on what token you choose, whether it's a utility token or a asset-backed token, different kind of laws will apply, right? But it was still a bit, or is still a bit unclear how your token will be categorized when it comes to ICOs, right? So you have still a grayish area and you don't really have legal certainty. With STOs, this is completely different, right? So it is backed by something. For example, if you have a classic security token, you know you're going to get a stake in a project or in a company. It's legally binding, so you have legal certainty. And that way makes it much easier for everybody to invest.
One of the topics that you're going to be focusing on at this year's event is really looking at real estate and how security tokens can play a role in that. And just recently, we also saw the first tokenization of a property in Switzerland, in Zug, in fact. So how do you bridge the two together when, in fact, the real estate industry or the property market is one traditionally characterized by so many paper trails?
It is amazing, actually, what's happened in this real estate industry. So we, at CVVC, we have our own advisory, right? So what you get when you have an advisory, you get a sneak peek of what's coming 6 to 9 months ahead, right? Because you have the projects needing advice. And we saw that last year that we have a focus on real estate. We've just had our real estate competition, meaning that's a startup competition with over 150 participants, applications. They are moving now, right? So again, it's probably the same thing when it comes to tokenizing real estate, it's just way more efficient. So we've seen many use cases in tokenizing real estate. And, you know, the industry starts to adapt now. You know, with the first building in Switzerland, there's many others that are being tokenized right now and you know, brought to a platform.
What other assets do you see taking off following this real estate wave of tokenization?
I think so. You know, I think the real estate industry is one of these clusters that is taking off right now, and I think the next big shift that we're going to see with respective laws introduced is the tokenization of almost every financial instrument out there over the coming years.
I want to finish up with a look actually at Zug and Crypto Valley. You have high hopes for the ecosystem, understandably, but when do you expect us to see the first Amazons or the Alibabas to emerge from Zug?
That's a good question. I think it will take some time, right? So it's very early days still. I mean, even the infrastructure is being built now, right? To come to a mass adoption in the sense that, you know, it's enterprise and institutional grade, it still takes some time, right? So there is the building blocks are here, but they are lacking fundamental aspects that still have to be built, and only when this picture of a new backbone of the future is complete and institutional grade and enterprise grade ready, real adoption will start to happen.
Mr. Ruch, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.